What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today, yes, it is that time. It's time to close down the boat. Now, a lot of people out there, they just take their boat to the marina and they just pay somebody else to do the winterization for them, and then maybe they even store it at the marina. But I store my boat here, and the closest marina to me is about an hour away, so I don't really want to spend extra money driving my boat that far away and then coming back, paying them a ton of money to do it, and then running back out to the marina to bring the boat back to store it here in my yard. So we're just gonna go ahead and do it ourselves and save the money. So without further ado, let's jump in and let's get it done. Okay, so this is everything I have for closing up my boat for the winter. So again, if we just start over here, I do have an oil vacuum over here, which is basically just operated with a pump, because on jet boats, the engines don't have an oil drain valve. You have to pretty much siphon the oil out of the engines. And then once you've siphoned the oil out, then you could go ahead and put your new oil in. Now, I am using the official Yamaha lube, which is a 10W40. There is going to be 3 quarts in each engine. I also picked up some official Yamaha oil filters. Now again, keep in mind, this is a 2008 Yamaha AR230 high output jet boat. I have 2 engines to work on. So I have 3 quarts over here of oil for the one engine and 3 for the other. I have 2 oil filters here, 1 for each engine. And then I also have brand new spark plugs that we're going to be changing as well. There's 4 spark plugs per engine. When you're doing a full winterization on your boat at the end of the year, especially if you happen to live in a colder climate, I'm in Western Pennsylvania, so we do get really cold winters, you definitely want to make sure you're changing your oil, putting fresh, brand new oil in your jet boat before the cold weather really comes. And then you want to make sure you're using new filters. You want to make sure you're changing your spark plugs. That way everything is fresh and clean and good to go, and you're not causing any issues with old dirty stuff sitting in your engines over the winter. I also have a jug here of the Stable 360 Marine fuel stabilizer here, which we'll pour in the fuel tank later. I also have some Stable fogging oil, which again, you just spray this in the engine real quick, and that just kind of helps lubricate the inside of the engine, so any kind of moisture is not going to build up and cause any kind of problems down the road through the winter. I also have some antifreeze over here. I just go to Walmart and pick up some of these. They're like $4 a gallon. Now, to pump the antifreeze through, I'm going to be using a bucket here, which I'll pour the antifreeze in. I'll do 1 engine at a time, so I got 2 gallons per engine. I also have this little water pump here that I can use that's battery operated to drop into the bucket, which is going to siphon out the antifreeze and pump it through this hose that I made, just using some 1-inch hose here with a barbed fitting on the end here. And then this side here will actually plug on to this end here of the pump. And then basically this is my water washout hose here that I use for flushing water through the engines when I'm done boating for the day. So to pump the antifreeze through, I'm going to hook this hose up to that fitting right here, like that, and then hook this up to the water flush valves of the boat, and that's how I'm going to pump the antifreeze through the engines. So that's pretty much all you got to do. It's not that hard of work. The first thing we need to do is just flush some water. So I'm going to go grab my garden hose, and we're going to flush out our engines first, just to get any of that dirty, contaminated water out of there that might be just sitting in there. And then once we do that, we're going to start doing everything else. So let me start getting these products in the boat out of the way. Let's get the water hooked up and let's start getting this done. Okay, so now that we're in the boat and I have everything pretty much in here ready to go, I have my garden hose hooked up to my water flush valve over here with the shutoff. So flushing your engines out, very simple and easy. All you have to do is take your hookup valve right here. Now this little hose right here has these little nubs right there. They're gonna line up in that little groove right there. You're gonna stick this water line in and then twist it to lock it in place. So we're gonna start like this. It's kind of like a pressure fit. So once you stick your nozzle in there, you're gonna push it all the way in and then twist it clockwise to the right. It'll lock in place. So that's all you have to do. So having this little shutoff valve here makes it very simple and easy. I can come over here, start my boat, come over here, pull the valve, let the water flush it through. And when it's all done, shut the valve, come over here, turn the key off, and we're done with that engine. Do that on both engines real quick. Once you've flushed both engines, then we can move on to the next step. Down over here, I have my batteries hidden over here. If you see over there, I have my dual batteries over there, and I have my shutoff switch over here. So now that we know the batteries are turned on, let's go ahead and start the engine. Okay. Once the water starts coming out, we'll be good to go. Yep, there's the water. Starting to come out down under there. So you want to give it a good maybe 20 or 30 seconds. Let that water flush some of that dirty water out. And then once it starts coming through the system and out from the bottom, after about maybe 30 seconds or so, then we could be done. Let's go ahead and shut our water off. That's it. That's how easy it is to flush your engine. Push your nozzle in, twist it, pop it out, and we're good to go. So now all I have to do is the same exact procedure we did with this port over here on that engine. We're going to do it to this engine using that port there. So once you flush both engines out, we're ready to move forward to the next step. Okay, so now that we got the engines flushed, that cap back there and that cap back there is where you drain and fill your oil from. So again, there's no drain valves on these engines here, so we have to siphon that oil out of each engine, and that's why you're going to need some type of a pump or some type of way to siphon that oil out. Now, if you look close here on this ball here, there are numbers listed as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I believe that's listed in liters. But again, we can use these rough measurements to give us an idea of how many quarts we have to put back in, because again, each engine by specs are recommended to have about 3 quarts of oil, but what I would recommend is only replacing the amount of oil that you specifically siphon out. And then maybe you could start your engine real quick just to kind of get that oil circulating, shut it off, check your dipstick, and then adjust the amount of oil you put in accordingly. But just be careful not to overfill your reservoir there, because you don't want too much oil in here or it could start to cause a mess later. So all we're going to do now, we're going to take our oil cap off, shove this hose down in there, and then we're going to take this cap off the top like that and then thread on our pump. And then all we're going to do is just keep pumping this pump here, which is going to siphon that oil out of there. So let's go ahead and get that done now. You should be able to get every bit of a foot, 12 inches of hose down in there. Now when you stick your hose in at first, and it stops right there, that's not it. You got to wiggle it around until you get it all the way down in there. Put my foot on my pump. Okay. Hear that? Siphoning out. And we're putting oil into our container over here. Now again, I could be low on oil anyways, because again, I just finished up boating and I might have been low on oil to begin with, but just make sure, keep your hose in there. So there you go. So you can see we're pretty much down at the bottom. There's a little tiny bit of oil there. So again, I think we siphoned out pretty much most of the oil out of that reservoir over there. It's going to take a little while to siphon out that oil, but in terms of just a vacuum pump like this, I would say give it a good 15 to 20 minutes to clear that out. And once it starts sucking up air and you don't really have as much oil coming through, you're probably done siphoning that oil out. Now, if we take a look at our pump here, we have about 1.5 quarts that we pumped out of that engine. So it looks like that engine was a little bit low. Now again, there's probably a little bit of oil still sitting inside the engine somewhere, but again, you can't always drain every little ounce of oil out of here. Okay, and then once you have drained your oil, right down there on the right side of both engines is your small oil filter. I'm just going to use a set of oil pliers here to loosen that up, pop it off. We'll pop the new one on, and then we can fill it back up with oil, and then we'll be done with this engine here. So let me go ahead and do that real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we went ahead and we got our new oil filter put on right down there. Got that nice and tight. We're all good to go. Now it's time to just go ahead and fill up our oil reservoir. Now again, being that I siphoned out a little over 1.5 quarts, almost 2 quarts out of there, and then after I pulled that oil filter off the bottom, there's a little bit of oil in the filter. I'm going to start with 2 quarts first, then we'll check our dipstick, and then maybe we'll put that 3rd quart in at the very end. Let's go and pour some fresh oil in. So that's 1 quart. I'm going to start with 2 quarts and we're going to go from there. All right, that's 2 quarts. Okay, so I went ahead and I put my 3rd quart of oil in there, and if we check the dipstick, now, as you can see here, we're nice and full because the full line is up here. So we're nice and full and it's dry above that. So it looks like after siphoning out almost 2 quarts of oil out of there and taking off the oil filter on the bottom, which has some oil on it as well. And then I had a little bit of oil drain out the side onto some paper towel. Once I got all that done and put the new filter on, I ended up putting 3 quarts back in there and we're nice and full. So we're good on this engine. Now I just have to do the same thing on that engine, and then we'll start on the next step of the winterization process. So let me finish that up and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that we got the oil changed on both engines, we're all good to go there. The next step is to change our spark plugs, which again, very simple and easy. So to do this, all you have to do is take your engine lid off, slide your little locking tabs off to the sides. Sometimes they're a little tight. Okay, so once you slide all your tabs around all the way around, you'll have to take the 2 screws off the top with a Phillips head screwdriver. Okay, nothing crazy. Set those to the side. Take your lid off. Now's a good time to inspect your air filter. Air filter seems to look pretty good. I just replaced these not long ago, so they're still pretty clean and good condition. Set that to the side. Next thing you want to do is take some type of a socket and take these bolts out the top of each spark plug, which I believe are just like a 10mm bolt. Just take those out like this. Okay, they're not real big bolts. Take them out just like that. Set them aside. I would just do all 4 at the same time for now. That way it's all done. But I'm going to start on number 2 just so you can actually see what I'm doing, because the first one's kind of hidden under here and I can't really get a good camera angle on it. So what you could do is reach under, press in your tab, and unplug your harness, which is right there. Once you unplug your harness, all you got to do is take this cover here, wiggle it, and pop it straight out just like that. Set that to the side. Then you can either use your factory spark plug removing tool that comes with the boat. You basically are going to slide this down in there and use like a screwdriver through that hole to, unthread it. Or what you can use is a 16mm socket with a nice long extension like that. And then you can use your socket. They shouldn't be in there that tight, so don't worry about that. Now I usually pick them out with this because my sockets aren't like magnetized, and pulling them out like that. But these are the spark plugs here. Now these are fairly new spark plugs, but since spark plugs are not that expensive, I'm just gonna go ahead and throw these in a box because I just put them in the boat about 2 months ago, but I'm gonna throw these in a box as a backup spark plug for next year. But we're gonna go ahead and we're going to install these new spark plugs that look just like this. These are the CR9EB NGK spark plugs. That's the exact ones we need. So we're just going to go ahead, slide that in our tool, slide that back down in there, let it grip, and then we could go ahead and tighten it the rest of the way with our socket. Okay, and you don't want to go crazy tight on these. You just want to do like a little hand tight, but that's about it. Nothing crazy. Okay, once you get that in, then you could take your cover like this, stick it down in there, slide it into position. You could go ahead, plug in your harness, and then go ahead and put in one of your bolts, just like that. This way you know which spark plug is done. So that's basically all you have to do to change your spark plug. So again, I just did the second one here. I just got to do the first, third, and fourth. Do the same exact thing on both engines. Once you do that, then we can move forward to the next step. So let me finish up changing all the spark plugs out and then we'll move forward. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, now that we have the spark plugs changed on both engines, is we're going to use a little fogging oil. And how we're going to do that is we're going to have to hook up our water to the port again, just like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn on our engine, then turn on our water, let the engine start to run. Then we're going to throttle up our RPMs to about 2200. Just get that engine going a little bit more. And then we're just going to spray fogging oil into all 4 of those little ports there. So that's all we have to do. So let's go ahead and turn our engine on over there. Okay, we're about 2200 RPM. You don't need a whole lot, just a little bit in each one of the air intakes, and then we're going to shut it down. Okay. All right, we're done with that engine. Now, let's move over to this one. Okay, same thing. Okay. All right, we're done. Okay, so that's really all you have to do. You don't need a whole lot. Again, it's only meant to push a little bit of the fogging oil into the air intakes to coat those areas so that, again, no condensation through the winter is going to cause any kind of erosion or any kind of freezing and cracking. So now that that's done, the next thing we have to do is start running our antifreeze through the system. So let me go ahead and turn my garden hose off because we're not going to be pushing water through those inlets there. We're going to be pushing antifreeze. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, so now that we changed our oil, we changed our spark plugs, and we sprayed some fogging oil in the air intakes, now we're going to start pushing some antifreeze through the cleanout ports. And then I'm just going to thread on my hose adapter here, just like that. Then I'm going to take the other side of this hose and slide it over my pump over on this side. Then what I'll do is I'm going to thread on my front screen, just like that. But how it works, this on-off switch that comes off of the pump, okay? And then you take this end of the pump here and you put in your wire leads, throw it in there like this, drop that down, lock it in, do the same thing to this side, drop that in there like that, lock it in, you're good to go. I just got this generic 8 amp hour lithium battery that works with DeWalt tools. You're going to slide that on to your unit just like that, and then you can go ahead and turn it on. Your light will turn on to tell you what your voltage is. Set that down to the side. Take this end of the hose, put it into your port. Just make sure it's opened. And then at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to drop our pump down into the antifreeze, just like that. And then on your lead wire, there's an on-off switch. So basically what we're going to do, we're going to start the engine, turn on our pump all of that antifreeze through there. Once it gets down to the bottom, we'll go ahead and shut off our pump, and then we'll shut off our engine and we'll be done. So let's go ahead and turn the engine on. Turn on our pump. I'm already pumping the antifreeze through it. You can see it out over there. Now all this antifreeze is going to basically drain out the bottom of the boat and be all over the ground, so just be aware of that. This pump does a really good job, so just be aware it doesn't take long. We're almost down to the bottom. Almost done. Once we're all empty pretty much. All right, we're gonna go ahead and shut it off. We're done. Now we gotta do the same thing on this side over here. Okay. Okay, same thing. What we're gonna do, turn on the engine, turn on our pump. Okay, so we're pretty much all done at this point. Now, I just have to put my air filters back in, just like that. Okay, our air filters are in. Now we can go ahead, put our engine covers back on. So again, I'm no professional marina operator here. I'm just trying to close up my boat for the winter on my own to save a few bucks and save myself multiple trips an hour away to have somebody else do this for me. I mean, we got the basics done. We flushed out our engines first with fresh water. We changed our oil. We changed the oil filters. We also changed our spark plugs with brand new spark plugs. We added some fogging oil into the air intake ports. We added some antifreeze through the washout ports. Pretty much that's about all you can do. All I have to do now is grab some of this Stable 360 Marine fuel stabilizer, pour it into my fuel tank. Now I already happen to have a full tank of fuel here, but what you're supposed to do is put this in when you have a relatively empty fuel tank and then fill it with fuel so that the fuel mixes this all up. But unfortunately, I already filled up my fuel tank the last time I left the lake. So we're just gonna go ahead and pour this in the fuel tank and cross our fingers and hope for the best. It is what it is. Okay, now there are 8 ounces of this Stable in here, and it tells you right here in the back it takes 1 ounce for every 10 gallons. Being that this is around 50 gallons, I need 5 ounces. Okay, and that's about it there. The last thing I want to do is just climb under the seat here and disconnect my batteries and take the 2 batteries out of the boat because I'm not going to need them anymore for the winter. And then I can just go ahead and clean all this up and then we're done. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and I disconnected my batteries. Again, I have a brand new starting battery here, and then I have a deep cycle battery back there. Now that we have those disconnected, again, I just have the trays sitting right there. I can easily disconnect them, pull them right out this hole, and we're all done. We got the winterization all taken care of. I took all of my carpets out off the deck here because, again, I don't want any of that getting wet or moldy over the winter. So it's just easier to pull them out now. I just threw them over here for now. I'll get them all rolled up and put in the garage for storage. But I go ahead, I pull out all of my drain plugs, my drain plug down here, and then my drain plug down there, my 2 drain plugs down in there. So I pull all 4 of those out, and then I pull my drain plug out from underneath the back, which just looks like this. I pull that out. That way all of my drains are pulled out and good to go. Everything can have proper airflow to dry out and be good to go there. I take my fire extinguisher out of the storage holder back there. I get my keys out of here. I pretty much just want to pull out everything from the boat that I can to store it in my house over the winter. That way there's not much that can really go bad in this boat over the winter. Other than that, I'm just gonna go ahead and take my tarp here, cover the whole boat, and then I'll probably just end up picking up a secondary tarp before the winter just to cover the whole boat a second time, because again, a lot of these cloth covers right here, they're not really waterproof. So again, if you have a lot of rain could seep in and create a lot of mold. So again, what I'll do is I'll just cover it with a secondary cover that's more waterproof, even if it's just a basic tarp. And then I'll just go ahead and park my boat over here out of the way, and then we're all good. So there you go, everybody, we're all done. So if you're looking to winterize your boat at home on your own, this is how I do it. So again, I save a lot of money, I save a lot of time, and I just do it myself. But as you can see, it's really not that hard. So again, if any of you are trying to save some money and save some time and you want to winterize your jet boat at home on your own, this is what I recommend doing because it works for me. But that's going to be it for today's video. I hope this video helps some of you out. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button and like this video. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comment section and I'll get back to you when I can. And also do me a favor, subscribe to the channel because it definitely helps me out and I greatly appreciate it. So that's it. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you. I truly appreciate you all. And as always, see you in the next video.